Ever wondered how much it costs to create a blockbuster video game? Well, today we're counting down the top 12 most expensive games in history. These aren't just games, they're full-blown productions. From sci-fi space odysseys to sprawling RPGs, these games had budgets that would make even Hollywood blush. Starting us off at number 12 is Shenmue, a game that basically pioneered the open-world genre with an unprecedented budget for its time. $70 million in 1999, adjusted for inflation, that's around $120 million today. That's more than what some blockbuster movies cost. And what did they spend it on? Well, aside from creating a richly detailed world, they invested heavily in forklifts. Yep, you heard me right. Imagine the pitch meeting for Shenmue. Alright, we need a lifelike world. What do people do in a port town? They drive forklifts? Brilliant! Here's $10 million just for that. With that kind of money, you could buy a fleet of forklifts, which coincidentally are also a big part of the game. You spend an oddly satisfying amount of time driving them around and even have races. Who knew operating heavy machinery could be so engaging? And let's not forget the level of detail in Shenmue. The game had weather patterns and NPCs with daily routines, something unheard of back then. You could literally lose yourself in its world for hours, whether you're searching for sailors or mastering martial arts. Next, we're moving from forklifts to dragons. At number 11 is Skyrim, a game so huge and iconic that you can mod it to be played as everything from Thomas the Tank Engine to a talking cheese wheel. Yes, you heard that right. Imagine being the Dragonborn, destined to save the world, while Thomas the Tank Engine chugs along, making those dragon roars sound adorable. With a budget of $100 million, which adjusts to around $120 million today, it's no wonder you can play this game on almost any platform, including your smart fridge. Probably. Seriously, Bethesda's quest for platform domination is relentless. Got a PC? Great. PS3 or PS4? Yep, Xbox 360 or Xbox One. You betcha. Switch? Of course. I'm just waiting for the day when you can shout Fuzro Da to open your fridge door. What did they spend all that money on? Well, let's start with the world building. The frozen mountains of Skyrim are so detailed you can almost feel the frostbite setting in as you climb them. The sheer size of the map is mind-boggling, and every corner of it is filled with something interesting. From hidden caves and ancient ruins to random encounters with giants who will casually swat you into orbit. And let's not forget the NPCs. Each one has a life, a story, and an opinion about you wandering into their house uninvited. Ever notice how they never seem thrilled when you barge in at 3 AM to sell them 17 dragon bones? From the frozen mountains of Skyrim to the bustling streets of Liberty City, GTA 4 takes our number 10 spot, redefining what open-world games could be with its insane attention to detail. Rockstar basically asked, what if we spent $100 million just to let players simulate road rage and questionable life choices? And boy, did they deliver. I mean, Liberty City is so detailed that you can spend hours just people watching. Ever sat on a virtual park bench and watched NPCs go about their day? No, just me. Well, let me tell you, it's like a digital soap opera. Nico Bellis's journey from an immigrant looking for the American dream to becoming Liberty City's most notorious criminal is nothing short of epic. And the budget reflects it. $100 million in 2008, which is about $130 million today. Imagine the Rockstar execs sitting around. Alright team, we need a game that lets players do everything they can't do in real life without getting arrested. Like running from the cops and stealing cars? Exactly, and let's make it look stunning while we're at it. From realistic weather patterns to the smallest details in NPC behavior, every penny was well spent. And let's not forget the radio stations. You could spend hours just cruising around, listening to some top-notch satire and music. There's nothing like causing chaos while a cheesy pop song plays in the background. Remember when you'd hear a hilarious commercial or a talk show segment and actually stop driving just to listen? The immersion is that deep. Speaking of revolutionizing things, let's talk about Halo.
We're approaching the LZ. It's gonna be hot. Get
At number 9 is Halo 2, the game that defined multiplayer shooters and had a marketing budget to rival the moon landing. With $120 million sunk into its development, adjusted to about $175 million today, Bungie didn't just create a game, they launched an entire universe. And with all that money, they probably could have bought the entire galaxy Master Chief was trying to save. Seriously, the scale of this project was astronomical. From the epic single-player campaign to the groundbreaking multiplayer mode, Halo 2 set the gold standard for what an online shooter could be. Picture this, it's 2004. I'm sitting in my living room with my Xbox, ready to dive into this highly anticipated sequel. The opening cutscene rolls, and it's like I'm watching a blockbuster movie. The graphics are jaw-dropping for the time, and the soundtrack absolutely iconic, but it's the multiplayer that really blew everyone's minds. Suddenly, we could trash talk strangers from around the world while fragging them in Blood Gulch. And who can forget those epic LAN parties? Half the fun was lugging your giant CRT monitor to your friend's house and trying to find an outlet that wasn't already taken by someone's Xbox. And let's not forget the cliffhanger ending that left us all screaming at our TVs. Bungie knew exactly how to keep us hooked. Now let's fast forward to the future, specifically a cyberpunk future.
LV, those are my people out there.
I get that launcher out of the way, I'll let you know.
Cyberpunk 2077 comes in at number 8 with a budget nearly as big as its world, and a launch as bumpy as a glitchy NPC trying to walk through a wall. Imagine pouring $174 million into creating the most immersive, neon-soaked cityscape only for it to stutter and crash on older consoles like a nightclub bouncer after too many drinks. They spent all that money but forgot one thing, making sure it worked on older consoles. I booted up my trusty old PS4, eager to dive into Night City, only to be greeted by textures that looked like they were from a PlayStation 2 game. Characters popped in and out of existence like magic tricks gone wrong. At one point, my car decided it wanted to take flight straight into the stratosphere. The dialogue was stellar though. I had some memorable conversations with Keanu Reeves. Well, when his character wasn't glitching out of frame, Johnny Silverhand would sometimes just disappear mid-sentence. It's like he was practicing his ghosting skills. But let's not forget the good parts. When it worked, it really worked. Night City was stunning. Neon lights reflecting off rain-soaked streets, towering skyscrapers looming overhead, and dark alleys filled with all kinds of shady dealings. You could spend hours customizing your character and exploring every nook and cranny. Despite the rocky start, Cyberpunk 2077 is an ambitious game that aimed high and hits, well, somewhere around the middle on launch day. Next up, we're trading in neon lights for Fantasy Kingdoms. At number 7 is Final Fantasy XV, a game that took over a decade to make and nearly as long for players to complete. Now imagine having a budget of $170 million, adjusted to around $185 million today. With that kind of cash, you could rent a real-life airship, or just use it to buy all the chocobos you'll need to explore this massive world. I mean, those birds don't come cheap. And speaking of chocobos, did you ever think you'd spend hours racing giant birds in a game about saving the world? Yeah, me neither, but here we are. Final Fantasy XV isn't just about its main quest. It's also about fishing trips with your buddies and cooking gourmet meals at camp. Honestly, I felt like I was on an extended road trip with my best friends, if my best friends were anime characters who occasionally fought monsters. The game's open world design is stunning. One moment you're cruising in your car, the regalia, enjoying some in-game tunes, and the next you're ambushed by a colossal behemoth that makes your road trip look like a stroll in the park. And let's not forget the epic summons. When you call down Ramuh or Leviathan, it feels like summoning an ancient god right into your living room. The level of detail in every part of this game is incredible. Every piece of equipment, every landscape, it's all crafted with such care that it almost feels like a living, breathing world. From fantasy kings to cowboys, let's head to the Wild West.
Orders from Dutch, same as always.
Number 6 is Red Dead Redemption 2, a game so detailed you could spend hours just brushing your horse. Seriously, I've spent more time grooming my virtual steed than my actual hair. With a budget that could buy an entire ranch, Rockstar made sure you could live out your cowboy dreams, down to every last speck of dust. The attention to detail in this game is absolutely mind-blowing. I once found myself mesmerized by the way Arthur's beard grows in real time. You can practically smell the leather and gunpowder as you trot through the breathtaking landscapes. The game world feels alive, with NPCs who remember your actions and animals that that follow realistic behaviors. And don't even get me started on the weather system. One moment you're basking in the warm sun, and the next you're caught in a thunderstorm so real you'll want to grab an umbrella. Then there's the sheer amount of activities you can do. Hunting, fishing, poker, you name it. I once spent an entire evening playing dominoes in a dusty saloon. And let's not forget the countless side quests where you can help, or rob, just about everyone you meet. Rockstar didn't just create a game, they built a world. From the way Arthur interacts with his horse to the smallest interactions in town, everything feels meticulously crafted. It's like stepping into a living painting of the Wild West. And now, let's talk about Modern Warfare, literally.
This man Makarov.
At number 5, we've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 with a staggering budget of $250 million, adjusted to around $310 million today. Half of that probably went into blowing up everything in sight. Seriously, with that kind of cash, you could almost fund a real military operation. But hey, why deal with the real world when you can have virtual mayhem? Booting up Modern Warfare 2 for the first time, I remember being instantly sucked into its intense cinematic experience. It's like Michael Bay decided to make a video game and just kept saying, "More explosions." I mean, the game has you storming through enemy lines, dodging helicopter gunfire, and jumping off snowmobiles like some action hero on steroids. And let's not forget the infamous No Russian mission. It's controversial, yes, but it's also one of the most talked about moments in gaming history. I spent hours perfecting my aim in multiplayer mode. Nothing quite compares to the satisfaction of landing that perfect headshot or calling in an airstrike right when your team needs it most. And the banter over voice chat? Pure gold. Trash-talking opponents from around the world. What more could you ask for? The game's budget also ensured top-notch voice acting and motion capture. I swear Captain Price felt like a grizzled war vet who could leap out of my screen at any moment and start barking orders. From global warfare to global crime sprees, let's talk GTA.
Merchandise from the cabinets. We're in and out in 90 seconds, guys.
At number 4, we've got Grand Theft Auto V, Rockstar's magnum opus, with a staggering budget of $265 million, which adjusts to around $320 million today. It's no wonder this game is still a top seller, even years after release. Booting up GTA 5 for the first time, I felt like I'd been handed the keys to a chaotic, sun-soaked playground. They didn't just make a game, they made a second life simulator where you can live out your dreams of robbing banks and flying helicopters. Or if you're like me, spend an unreasonable amount of time trying to land a jet on top of a skyscraper. 1 minute you're planning the heist of the century, and the next you're getting distracted by the lure of the golf course or a round of tennis. It's like having all of Los Santos at your fingertips, with the freedom to be as law-abiding or law-breaking as you wish. The level of detail is astonishing. Every character feels alive. Every street has its own story. And let's not forget about Trevor. Good old unpredictable Trevor. I mean, who hasn't had their jaw dropped during one of his wild escapades? The online mode adds another layer. Teaming up with friends for elaborate heists or just causing general mayhem never gets old. I once spent an entire night trying to outrun the cops in a stolen tank. Good times. Next, we're heading to a galaxy far, far away.
This droid's holo recording confirmed my suspicions.
Coming in at number 3 is Star Wars: The Old Republic, because building a galaxy-spanning MMORPG is about as expensive as it sounds. With a budget this size, they could have bought a real Death Star. But you know, in-game spaceships work too. I remember booting up Esotor for the first time and feeling like I'd been handed a golden ticket to the Star Wars universe. The sheer scale of it blew my mind. You can hop from planet to planet, each with its own unique ecosystem and storyline. I spent hours just customizing my character. Do I want to be a noble Jedi Knight or a sinister Sith Lord? Choices. Choices. Once you dive into the game, it's like living out your Star Wars fantasies. I had lightsaber duels on Tatooine's sandy dunes and space battles that made me feel like a hotshot pilot. The voice acting and cinematic cutscenes made every quest feel epic. At one point, I found myself negotiating with Hutts. I mean, who knew galactic diplomacy could be so intense? And let's talk about the companions. You get your own crew of misfits, each with their own backstories and quests. My favorite was always HK-51, the droid with a penchant for calling everyone meatbags. Classic. But what really got me was the community. Joining a guild felt like being part of an intergalactic family. We'd team up for raids and PvP battles, strategizing like we were planning an actual military operation. From lightsabers to futuristic guns, let's talk about Destiny. At number 2, we've got Destiny, the game that practically invented live service shooters. Bungie poured a jaw-dropping $140 million into its development, and with marketing, the figure balloons to a galaxy-sized $500 million. They weren't just making a game, they were building an entire universe of DLC. Booting up Destiny for the first time felt like stepping into a sci-fi epic. I remember thinking, wow, this is where my free time goes to die. The graphics were stunning, with vistas that made you want to explore every nook and cranny. I spent hours just gawking at the beautiful landscapes, wondering how much it cost to render each pixel. The gameplay was smooth as butter. Firing off a perfectly timed headshot felt incredibly satisfying. And let's not forget the loot grind. Oh, the loot grind. I once spent an entire weekend farming for a specific weapon drop, convinced that RNGesus would eventually smile upon me. And then there's the DLC. With all that money, Bungie didn't just build a game, they built a galaxy's worth of downloadable content. It's like they said, why stop at one universe when we can charge for 6 more? Each expansion brought new worlds to explore, new enemies to fight, and more reasons to empty my wallet. I can't count how many times I teamed up with friends for raids that felt like orchestrating a small military operation, coordinating our moves, shouting out strategies. It was like being in an action movie with your buddy. And finally, we arrive at the most expensive game of all time. Taking the top spot, we have Star Citizen, a game still in development since 2012 with a budget that's soaring higher than any spaceship it promises. With over $500 million poured into it and adjusting for inflation, we're looking at $550 million or more. It's a financial black hole. I remember first hearing about Star Citizen and thinking, wow, they're really going all out on this one. And boy, did they. They've got everything. Space combat, planetary exploration, trading, mining, you name it. It's like someone took every sci-fi dream and decided to make it real. With a budget that could fund a real space mission, let's hope this game takes off before we colonize Mars in real life. Imagine logging in one day to find out humanity has actually surpassed the game's progress. The graphics? Absolutely jaw-dropping. I mean, I've seen screenshots that look more real than actual photos from NASA. The ships are detailed down to the last rivet and cockpit button, and the environment? They make you want to strap on a virtual spacesuit and explore every asteroid. But let's be honest, we've been waiting for what feels like an eternity. Every update brings new promises and features that make you think, okay, this time it'll be the one. It's like the universe's longest tease. And that wraps up our list of the most expensive games ever made. From futuristic cities to cowboy adventures, these games spared no expense in making their worlds bigger, better, and more immersive. Each one of them drew me in with its unique charm and left a lasting impression. Cyberpunk 2007's neon-soaked streets, Final Fantasy XIV's epic road trips, Red Dead Redemption 2's meticulous details, and Star Wars, the Old Republic's vast galaxy. They all felt like living, breathing worlds. Maybe next time you buy a game, you can think of it as contributing to a massive production budget, kind of like buying a movie ticket, but with more explosions. Just imagine that your hard-earned cash is helping create the next big thing in gaming. Who knows, you might even see your favorite game on a list like this someday. If you enjoyed this list, smash that like button and let me know in the comments which game you think was worth every penny. And don't forget to subscribe for more top-tier gaming content. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep gaming and maybe start saving for that next big release.